everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Tyranny. Last episode, we finally had a little talk with Tunon, our particular boss, effectively. Learned a bit about him, about laws, about everything, and what our goals are to be in the near future. Which are, quite simply, investigate the others and see if we can figure out who's causing problems. Right now, well, we still have to speak with other people around here, and it seems there's something going on around here down in the center to investigate. And we also have to talk to the representatives from the two sides. We'll start with the other Fatebinders. Seems that loading up. If you'll but allow me to explain myself, Your Honor. The circumstances were... well, it was madness, Your Honor. No one could be expected to act in a rational way. No? Perhaps I expect too much of my servants. Is that it? No, Your Honor. But if you hear my testimony, I think you'll understand. I see a better alternative has presented itself. Fatebinder, will you audience this case in my stead? I'm curious what manner of conclusions you draw. I am ready to hear the case. Excellent. The testimony will begin. I'm afraid it is a sensitive matter. I was away from the city, seeing to a military camp, when I discovered two Scarlet Chorus soldiers defiling a woman. A local from the Tiers? Yes, and I understand that it's a common enough occurrence in that army, but I couldn't stand for it. I was brought up to know better. She looks up at Tunon. I was taught to know better. What happened next? I fought the recruits. They fought back, but in the end my skills went out. After they were both dead, I let the poor woman go. Their gang boss witnessed everything. Though he didn't intervene until it was all done, I was trussed up and brought back to court in a wagon, where you find me now. And what fine company you made on the journey over. The gang boss spreads his lips open in a toothy grin. The defendant is charged with the murder of subjects who are owed the protection of Kairos' law. Fatebinder, I assume you wish to cross-examine. Tunon, why isn't the victim of assault a matter of concern? She was a denizen of the Tiers. She has no rights under Kairos' law. This is a simple murder trial, and the defendant stands before you. I would caution against burdening yourself with extraneous variables. The gang boss didn't intervene at all? Yeah, if my recruits couldn't defend themselves against a glorified clerk, then their lives were forfeit as far as I was concerned. Good riddance. I'm still happy to get satisfaction out of the matter. The law is the law. All he did was a joke about how the court would be merciless. Laughed all the way to the bastard city. Didn't seem particularly bent out of shape over his lost men. Yeah, that sounds about right. Did you speak with the Tiers woman? Only briefly. She thanked me before fleeing. I didn't want to keep her. She'd suffered enough at the hands of those soldiers. You don't think she said anything about wishing to join the army? She glances at you with frank curiosity. The army? Not that I... And she definitely wasn't in the area for that very purpose. Her eyes widen as she realizes your intent. The Fatebinder nods. That's right. She only mentioned it in passing, but she told me that she was attempting to make contact with the Scarlet Chorus. You know, to join them. That was when the soldiers attacked. I hope this has a point, Fatebinder. Do you regret your actions? She frowns in thought. No. If our positions were reversed, I would have wanted someone to step in on my behalf. Kairos' law be damned. She glances up at Tunon with momentary unease. Suppose I should keep my distance from the Scarlet Chorus in the future. I might not be able to restrain myself if I saw it happening again. I am ready to give my ruling. Very good. Present the verdict and let us be done with this unpleasant affair. If the woman intended to join the Scarlet Chorus, she was protected under Kairos' law. Your actions were just. She delivers a bow of gratitude, holding your eye contact the entire time. Thank you for hearing my case. Fatebinder Furia, you have ducked Kairos' punishment with a technicality. Be more mindful of your delicate position in the future. Your grasp of Kairos' law troubles me. It reeks of independent thoughts honed beyond the principled walls of my court. And yet, it is your ruling. Dismissed! I mean, technically, yes, she did break the law, and she should have been punished, but at the same time, yeah. Anyway, let's speak with these Fatebinders here. Ah, Jason Pendragon. You return, unscathed and more acclaimed than ever, as seems to be your way. The Fatebinder of War claps you good-naturedly and with excessive strength on the back. Come, you must regale me with all that your journey has held. I could use a moment of respite between friends. He regards you with a warm, boisterous smile. Speak as you wish. I'd pay a boar's weight in rings to know your thoughts. He rakes a hand through his thick red beard and offers you a grin. Come, let us speak freely. How were you singled out to become a Fatebinder? I cannot speak for the other Fatebinders, but I joined the court when I was yet still a boy and impetuous beyond reason. I had been imprisoned with a death sentence for the crime of desecrating corpses. It was nothing so exciting as you're no doubt imagining. I was merely burning corpses that awaited burial. Before the local authority could see me to the gallows, the adjudicator claimed me a great talent waiting to be realized, needing only to be steered. Why burn the bodies? Corpses piling in the streets spread plague faster than the filthiest of rats. I was but 10 and a weak fighter. I did what I could for my homeland. A bit understandable. Why was it a crime? There was a time when even the Northmen were of superstitious stock, a time before Kairos brought reason to the realms. The people of my city believed that, without proper rites, I was cheating our fallen warriors from returning to the land. Ah, I understand. It's a good thing Tunon spared you. As I have said, the adjudicator saw within me something of rare value, as is true for us all. You as well were chosen for our great court, for which I am grateful. As a Fatebinder of War, I rely heavily on your talents. Let's talk about something else. I'm curious about Tunon's masks. They can be rather unsettling, can't they? Even to one such as me, but I can assure you, the innocent need not fear their objective emotionless gaze. What of the adjudicator's mask specifically would you like to know? I want to know about the silent face. The silent face is the face that Tunon shows to us now, and for that we are fortunate beyond belief. The silent face is a patient face, a face for listening as Tunon presides over all matters brought to the court, taking great pains to ensure all sides of an issue are heard. I want to know about the face of resolve. Tunon's last known dawning of the face of resolve was the moment he judged and called ruin to half the districts in the bastard city. Since then, he has ruled our northern tier justly, calmly, and with efficient diplomacy. I want to know about the face that is no more. Tunon is said to have worn a third mask in aeons past. I have heard rumor that the face displeased Kairos and thus was destroyed, as happens to all persons and objects that displease our overlord. Have you ever seen Tunon change his masks? In the way that you and I would change our raiment? No, not as much. And yet, I have seen the masks shift. They switch without the adjudicator or anyone so much as laying a hand on them. It's not something you can watch unfold. After a time, you merely realize it has already happened. There isn't work enough for the court that we shouldn't occupy ourselves wondering over mysteries. Let me ask something else. Could you remind me of the history and origin of the Fatebinders? The seasoned warrior rubs a finger against the line of stubble along his cheek. We are a relatively young order, though we have spanned these past 2 centuries. While the voices of Narat and Graven Ash need armies to execute their will, Tunon wields but a modest court of vassals. We exist as the extension of his law. There is no place in all of Tyratus beyond our judgment. Tell me more about Kyros's armies, our allies. Ah, yes. With friends like these, our work is often self-explanatory. Were you asking about the Scarlet Chorus or the Disfavored? The Chorus first. Scarlet Chorus soldiers hail from every corner of every realm. As the Chorus marches, it conscripts indiscriminately from those it has conquered to replenish its ranks. There's no continuity of command in the Chorus. Narat allows, encourages even, the strong to challenge their leaders. But the Chorus has numbers, and brute force is almost always a viable solution, much as Rogalus insists otherwise. Besides, the Scarlet Chorus draws strength from the multitudes it swallows. Its blood chanters have taken knowledge from various tiers mystics, and many of the Chorus's best soldiers were grown here in the south. And the Disfavored? Ah, the Disfavored are the iron tip of Kyros's great phalanx. Armed with the best weapons, the most comprehensive training, and led by the brilliant Graven Ash, the Disfavored have no equals in open battle. The Legion has a saying, Graven Ash protects, and it's no empty boast. The Archon of War is able to lend his will and strength to his soldiers, and give them endurance beyond human limits. I have great respect for the Disfavored, but I know where I stand with them. They are a very close-knit band, all of them from the northern families, many of them related to each other. But considering our role in the Great Hierarchy, I can't fault Graven Ash for being selective. Alright, I've claimed the Spire at Vendrian's Well. So the court's whispers are true. The Fatebinder rubs his fingers along the underside of his chin, pondering his thoughts with great weight. After a moment he offers you a wistful sort of smile. Someday I would like to witness for myself this tower that has risen above the realms like a blade thrust into the sky. I would hear of your past victories in the war or of recent events. Have you not yet tired of my tales, Jason Pendragon? I do admit I never tire of telling them. Ah, very well then. Let me champion the feats of my conquest. Let the glory of Kyros's reign fall on any ears that would hear of it. If but you could have come with me, my brother, on my latest mission to Haven. It was a rousing venture rife with bloodshed and intrigue. Inspired by the Vendrian Guard, House Duchenius had a change of heart regarding her loyalties to the Overlord. So I rode without rest on rumors that they had fled to Ardent. Several days of hounding passed before I was able to locate them and rend their bellies. By my blade, the blood that once ruled Haven ran red in her streets. Is that all? All right, farewell. So that's one of them. Let's try the other side, Fatebinder Rogalus.
Fatebinder, you return.
Rogalus looks you up and down with an inscrutable expression.
You look as if you have questions for me to untangle. Ask. I am feeling generous.
Tell me about some of the past Archons.
Nox Myria, the Archon of Pestilence, was disliked in her circles. When she opened her eyes to see and her mouth to speak, it is said that flies would gust into the air, swarming so thick as to blacken the sky. She died in the 20th year of her birth, following a string of unusual and grotesque symptoms. Much that was known has been lost regarding the first Archon of Frost, but his talents were improved upon by 3 following Archons, sisters born together and never since seen apart. It is said Rana, Nirabel, and Slayer were so cold at birth that they were thought stillborn. No one is entirely sure how many Archons Kairos has killed, but I would guess it numbers several dozen, or more based on the various histories I've been able to piece together. Rin, the second Archon of Lightning, often struggled to control the power that roiled within him. If he suffered but a single slip of concentration, he risked an instant electrocution to his touch. Or so he claimed, after killing the first Archon of Water during a diplomatic embrace. Moramus of the Mire, the Archon of Fungus, produced most of the flora in the swampland of Nettlebog. A stooped hermit who rather resembled a dapperling, he was never once reported to have left his swamp. Some believe he still lives within the land, though there's been no sighting of him in nearly 300 years. I have told you all that I wish. If you would tax my time further, ask about something else. Very well. I suppose I was curious about other Archons. Where did you study when you were younger? I've been a ward of the court for as long as I've been aware. As a child, I demonstrated wholly perfect recall, and I observed all that Tunon and my tutors had to offer. I remember hating all the lectures and wishing I could learn at my pace. Funny how I envied the sages of the Tears, how they could spend their whole lives reading and never exhaust their library. Of course, now the Vellum Citadel is nothing more than a burning waste.
What do you think of the other Fatebinders?
You'll need to be more specific than that, I'm afraid. There is, on last count, slightly more than a handful of us.
What's your opinion on the Fatebinder of War?
Nunaval is keen, brash, and a hearty braggart with a fondness for bloodshed. He can be utterly unbearable at times. His justice is fair, even if he skews toward rather exacting and uncompromising punishments at times.
What about the Fatebinder of Balance?
Callio is the finest among us. Her discernment is beyond reproach, and she is perhaps Tunon's favorite. She has a mind for suspicion and observation that makes others uneasy. We who operate within the confines of the law have nothing to fear, of course.
What about me?
You follow an orderly path, regimented and organized. Perhaps too orderly for our station, but that is neither here nor there if you execute your job with wisdom. Be sure you don't stray to the path of chaos. Down that way lies rebellion.
Noted. Can you tell me about the old walls and the Bane?
With which should I start?
The old walls.
We know little enough about the ancient structures, save that they predate all historical record. The forbidding ruins crisscrossed the Tiers and North alike centuries before we raised our cities. The only one old enough to guess is likely Kairos.
How about the Bane?
The Bane are found in the old walls, but much of their defining qualities still escape me. They are creatures of smoke, claw, and fang. If you find yourself unfortunate enough to fight one, remember that spells are effective against them, but grab the attention of others lurking near.
I will keep note. I'd like to know more about the Tiers.
The political entities of the Tiers are essentially split between the Bastard Tier, the Younger Realms, and the Free Cities. Of which would you like to know?
What can you tell me about the Bastard Tier?
The Bastard Tier is the most northern of the Tiers and was the first to bow to Kairos' reign, though the knee they bent fell unwillingly. Kairos had his eye on the Bastard Tier for many years before he marched on her capital city. This is the hub of trade and commerce. Claim the markets, and the people will follow.
I'm curious to know more about the Younger Realms.
The Younger Realms sprawl the middle and southernmost tiers and can be cataloged as follows: Apex, Azure, Haven, and Stalwart. Azure was renowned for its exceptionally fertile land which fed the whole of the tiers. That was before Kairos' Edict of Stone blighted the land. Stalwart is also worth mention, for it comprises the whole of the southernmost tier, and proves the toughest and most defensible of the realms. It is often said that the other realms will not fall while Stalwart yet stands. The local army wages bitter war against the disfavored, though the Edict of Storms has cut off the best of their defenses. It is only a matter of time before Stalwart falls.
I'd like to hear about the Free Cities.
There are 3 free cities remaining: Last Harbor, Spiral's Maw, and Barris and Chains. The first and strongest of the free cities was the Setting Sun, which Kairos crushed in 429 with the Edict of Tumult. After that, the remaining free cities were quick to surrender.
I want to talk about the sages.
I will not speak of the sages. They are no better than charlatans and cons, wholly selfish in their ill pursuit to hoard all knowledge from others. They are self-blinded by their own deceptions and clever manipulations. They alone cause their own undoing and are solely to blame for the burning library, one of the most grievous of wrongs in the known histories, for which they can never be forgiven.
An interesting way to look at it. Farewell. That just leaves Fatebinder Callio, Fatebinder of Balance.
Jason Pendragon, I see you've returned to the fold. Your exploits in Vendrian's Well are the matter of some discussion.
The Fatebinder of Balance regards you with a discerning eye, and for a moment you feel as if she is trying to peer into the very depths of your mind.
What can I do for you?
Callio touches a gentle hand to your shoulder. Has anything happened while I was away?
There have been whispers that Cairn grew disloyal to Graven Ash's command during the campaign in Azure. I took up the mantle of investigation near Plainsgate, and judging the rumors to be true, dispatched Cairn by proclaiming Kairos' Edict of Stone. The very earth turned against the traitor's Archon as the region split asunder in righteous judgment. I can speak with her a few times. I guess I can get news on different things from these. Rogalus traveled to the Vellum Citadel to secure the archives for our gracious overlord. The sages there proved more stubborn than we'd anticipated, so Rogalus was forced to proclaim Kyros's Edict of Fire, consuming the Citadel in a gulf of eternal flames. A sad affair.
I see.
The war between the disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus has been a bureaucratic nightmare, and I'm sure you can imagine. The court can't be seen to openly favor one side or the other, so Tunon and his Fatebinders play at impartiality. Though you seem to operate on a longer leash these days, don't you? Tunon shows you great favor.
A smile flickers to the corner of her mouth, then vanishes. Nothing else. You seem to know much of my actions. Have you been spying on me?
Don't act so surprised. It's my duty to ensure that those who operate under the Adjudicator's name adhere to the spirit of his law, if not the very letter.
And those who don't?
Will be dealt with swiftly and efficiently at the point of Mark's blade.
The Fatebinder slips a slim dagger from the folds of her purple garb, flipping the weapon almost idly in the air.
Of course, that is assuming I don't dispatch them first. I take my duty seriously, and I'm very, very good at it.
How have you occupied your time in the Bastard City?
Tunon sends me on assignments here and there. I settle disputes between the locals when the Adjudicator is otherwise occupied. Everything from trade disagreements to pushing chorus squatters out of basements. Real rewarding work. The glory of war is not an honor reserved for the likes of us. We're the fish swimming in Tunon's wake, picking up scraps along the way. We're rather large and imposing compared to the bottom feeders of the tiers, but fish all the same.
I'd like to know more about Tunon.
Tunon is our overlord's fair and exacting adjudicator. He speaks with the voice of Kyros's law, and his word is judgment. All of this and more you can learn by asking him yourself. Go on. Or does he intimidate you still? I jest, of course.
I have some concerns about the war.
You are free to share them in my confidence.
She leans in closer. Our armies squabble at each other's throats. Divided, we cannot win.
I'm less concerned about the armies than the Archons themselves. There can be no order when mountains collide. Who do you see as champion?
Neither. They're both at fault and equally inept. Her mood darkens.
And then who would lead our advances or be left to deliver Kyros's peace? Would you wear this responsibility as a crown upon your head? You may find it a heavy burden to bear.
You misunderstand my intent. The Fatebinder studies you with a knowing eye.
Do I?
You do. While I'm not sure about the comment about them being inept, what I more mean is that the leaders seem very focused on their own personal desires, and because of that, they're letting the greater desire of the war get in the way, hence this civil war that has begun. I would not lead. I am not necessarily one to lead, but the two who are leading are having problems, and something should be done about that. But then again, I am the one who has been chosen to take care of it. Farewell. While we still have a little time, I believe we should discuss with the... I feel like we may be talking with all three of these on both sides. Maybe we should start with the disfavored. And I'm going to let the episode go a little shorter today, just because I don't want it to end up going too long. Sevius we've already spoken to once, I believe. And I believe there's someone on the other side who we've already spoken to once, Bitter Quip. So I am going to end this episode here. Next episode,
We'll speak with the disfavored, see what they have to say about everything going on. That'll be in the next episode. So until then, I'm Chester44. That is Jason Pendragon, Barrack, Verse, and Lantry. This has been a Let's Play of Tyranny, and I shall see you all next time.